Hello, my name is Pandora. This is a video to answer a question that was posted on the Craft Edge forum about how to create a bag or a box in the shape of an old-fashioned telephone. Since it was on there, I'm assuming he wants to use SCAL, and I don't usually do this in SCAL, so I thought it would be a bit of a fun challenge for me to try and find out how. So let's start. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new page, and I can do that by coming up to here. There's a little green X and simply clicking on the plus sign. Now it says page 3 because I did have a page 2 and decided I'd show you how I did it, so I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to just change it to call it page 2 and click on OK. And just to mention, my screen may not look the same as yours. You may be able to see my rulers across the edge here. What I've done is I've turned off my grid, and I did that by going to View and Grid, and here you can click on either Show Grid or View, Grid, and click again, and it'll take the grid away. I decided the grid would be a distraction for this particular video, so I've switched it off. The next thing I want to do is bring in a picture to use as my base for actually deciding what shape this thing's got to be. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to use Place Image. I did try tracing the image, but I really couldn't get a clean shape, so I'm going to place the image instead. And this is where I stored it, and I'm going to just bring it in. Let's just put that in the middle there. I brought it in quite large. In fact, it's sort of 11 inches wide, that whole thing. It's just so that you can see what I'm up to next. And what I'm actually going to do is simply draw around it. While I think on that subject, I was asked a quick question about how you stop a pen. I did mention it in another video, but if you're going to use the draw tool, you can click on it and click again, and that's a line. But if you keep going, keep dragging the mouse without clicking, you're going to get more of a line. Now, there are two ways to do it. I worked out that if you press the Escape key, it will stop it, but also if you simply press the Return key on your keyboard, that will also stop it. So to start it, you just click and drag, and to stop it, you can either press the Escape key and or the Return key. Either way, it'll work. So I'm just going to get the Select tool, draw a box around both of them, and just press the Delete key because I don't want those in the file. Just to answer that question very quickly. So I'm going to go back and select the Pen tool, and what I'm going to do is click on my start point. Let's start at the bottom edge here, and then simply click wherever I see a sort of major change of direction. I'm going to click and drag. Now here you can probably see that actually there's a sort of indent shape. I'm going to take a view that I want my shape to go from here. I'm going to follow this line. What shape you actually follow is entirely up to you, but as you can see, all I'm doing is clicking and dragging and clicking and dragging. I'm using the shadows to decide that's the shape I'm going to go to. And down to the bottom here and across to here. So there's my shape. I want to edit my shape, so I'm going to change tools, and I'm going to use the second tool down, which is the Shape tool, to edit the nodes in outline. So I'm going to click on that and then click on my image. And you can see there's some variation here. One of the things that I discovered, it may have been there for a while, but I certainly have never seen it before, because possibly I've never looked, is there's a menu that's available to you when you're in this mode. At the moment, if I click and drag on any of these nodes, it'll move them, but it moves everything pretty much in a straight line. What I discovered was, if you right-click while you're in this mode, this menu will appear. And if you click on Path, and then come down to here, you can see it says Convert Node to a Corner, to a Cusp, to Smooth, or to Symmetric. I've messed around with a few of these, and the one that seems to work best for me, I cannot say I understand them all yet, but I'm working on it. But if I convert node to Cusp, what we'll find is if we click back on it, and we click on the node, we've now got these handles that appear. Can you see there's one here, and there's one there. Now, these are very much the same thing that I use in Inkscape, And what they allow you to do is to alter the path by clicking and dragging. If I click and drag, can you see how this path, if I pull that right out there, is going to go like that? And clearly that's not what we want. But I'm going to move it back in till it comes more or less on the line. And I think what I'm going to do is just switch off the internal color, which may make this simply easier for you to see. So I do that by coming across to fill and say color none. Now hopefully you can just see the pink and the line. So what I'm actually going to do is select it, click and drag around all of it, right click to bring up that menu, click on path or select point at path, and then click Convert Node to Cusp, and hopefully that's going to work for all of them. I'm going to click back on, and now it's a bit difficult with this dark background, but hopefully you can see here there is a node which we can use to drag. And what it does is it gives us the node shape. Now, sometimes you want to use these if it's a straight line, as in across the top. I really don't want to. I'm just going to alter the positions. If you want to do two at the same time, you can select one, hold the Shift key down, and it will move both at the same time. So select one, hold the Shift key down, move it down. Again, here, if I click on the node, I can see there's that little arrow that's going to allow me to get some shape. Click on this node and bring that one out. It's a little difficult to see with this dark background, but hopefully as I zoom in, you'll be able to see these as I go along. And basically just work my way around. Now, because the telephone's actually slightly at an angle, it's going to be straight. So I'm going to say, well, okay, I think I want this actually straight. So regardless of the actual shape, I'm going to say, yes, I want that as a straight edge, but I'm going to give it a slight curve here and a slight curve there to allow for the shape on the bottom of the telephone. Let's move this one down to that corner. And let's move this down a wee bit. And that's pretty much the shape I want. And if I actually change to the select tool and click and drag it away, I'm actually dragging the telephone out of the way, you can see I've pretty much got the shape. Now, for the purpose of this video, that's all I'm going to do for that particular shape, because if I also use the Control-Z key and undo, I can put it back to where it was, and that will make life so much easier for myself. So, as you can see, what you need to do is just play around with the shapes till you get the shape you want by using this shape tool and clicking and dragging on the nodes till they're the shape you want. And that's how you do it. In order to do the top half, I'd go back to the pen tool, and I'd do exactly the same. I'd click and drag, and every major point, I'd simply, going across the top, I'm not even going to bother putting it in the middle, but every time there's a major shape change, I'm going to just click and drag over to here, no, actually to go to there. And again, by using this shape tool, I'm going to select all of those, right click to bring up that menu path, change to convert to the cusp node, and then click on them and use these arrows to enable me to stretch the corners out and bring the curve. So, very quick and simple explanation, I hope. I hope this sorts the problem out. And in the next part, I'm going to look at how would I take these images and then convert them into a bag or a box. Just to say, I'm a fan of layers. I'm also a fan of using different pages for different things. So what I've done is I've actually taken the handset and I've copied it to a new page, which I've called handset. So if I come back to the image, I'll just show you how I did that. I'm going to select the tracing of the bottom of the telephone, and I'm going to use Control and C on my keyboard to copy it. It's a standard shortcut for copying things. I'm going to click on the plus green sign, and instead of calling it page 6, I'm actually going to call it telephone base. You can call it anything you like as long as it'll fit in the space. So let's just click on OK, and then I'm going to simply say paste in place, and here's my image. Now I can see instantly this image is not even. This side here doesn't match that side there, but I'm not going to waste time changing it. I would do normally, I'd get it absolutely even, But for the moment, I think you can change that bit yourself. I am going to just select on the page and zoom out to say, let's make it 60%, just to give ourselves some space on the page. I'm using a 12 by 12 mat just to give myself some room. So if I was going to try and to make this into a bag or a box, one of the first things I'd need to do is decide how big I'd want it to be. And therefore you'd need some depth here. So first of all, I'm going to select it. I'm going to use Control-C to copy it and then Control-V to paste it. Now I have two images. You might be able to see one here and one here. And just for the purposes of this video, let me just change this color by clicking on the box here and turning it blue. So you can see we've got one at the top and one at the bottom. Now before I do anything else, I want to flip it. And over here under Appearance, I can flip it vertically. So I'm going to flip it upside down. And then I'm simply going to move it down below the other copy. So one's up there, one's down here. And this is assuming that this is the size I want it to be. Clearly, you need to decide what size you want it to be. In order to join the two together, what I would do is go across to my Shapes library, there's a brand new Shapes library in this version of 3.045. It's all changed a little bit. You've got shapes and fonts and projects here. It's all very exciting. Haven't had really time to play with those. But this is the shape I want, so I'm going to click on it, and here's a shape. And literally what I would decide is how big would I want it to be. And you can decide that here by clicking and dragging, or you can come across, and in this case you probably want to switch off Keep Proportions. I have mine on as a default because I often forget to switch it on, so I'd rather have it on and switch it off. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to click and drag so I can see that this is matching up the size. And let's just move it. And because I want a bit of a flap to help me do this, I'm going to make it slightly wider than the box here, than the bags. And then I'm just going to drag the spaces so that they overlap. Now, this flap can be as tall or as short as you want it, and it would depend on how much width you want here. So this is what I would do. I would set it up this way, make sure that they overlap. And then having decided what this width is, I would select one and the other and then go to Path and say Union. And you'll know, you can see it's all changed to one shape. Go Path, select both of them, and Path and Union. One of the things that is immediately apparent is how badly uneven these two sides are. But it doesn't really matter, and what I should perhaps have mentioned is that I would also select both of the objects and use the Align buttons on the keyboard in order, this Align button, align vertically to make sure that they were aligned to the middle. So that I knew that they were actually lined up correctly. As I say, you could make this edge here wider, and you still, even if now you change your mind, by clicking on the Shape tool and selecting these two nodes here, and then click and let go of the Shift key and click and drag, you can actually make it as wide as you want in order to give you a flap to the side. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Click on that one, hold the Shift key down. If I actually get that one, it'll be easier. And then click and drag out in a straight line. And that way this flap could be used to join the two boxes. If you wanted to, you could even add an extra bit on here to make it easier to join the flap. That's a bit of a design thing and not something I'm going to have time to cover in the video. This is really just to try and help you get started with the whole affair. I hope this gives you a clue. The next thing you'd want to do is to do the lines, and if you look at one of my other videos, I did actually cover how to create dashed lines and how to edit them so that you can have a line that scores as you want it to do. I hope you found this helpful, and I do hope that you have some success. I look forward to seeing your project on the forum. If you have any requests, please feel free to email me at myrequest@btinternet.com. Thank you very much for listening.